tenants. I mean, that's putting it kind of nicely. Standing out in front of a property where we've had more than our share of them. And if you want to learn a little bit about how to deal with difficult tenants, if you weren't able to avoid them in the first place, this video is definitely for you. So make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and shoot me a comment telling me what you think you would have done differently in some of these situations. So one of the things I like to do when I come to a property for really any reason is just do a quick glance around the whole property, see what kind of issues you might spot, generally tenant behavior issues. The big thing is going to be trash. People are just throwing trash out of their windows. That's incredibly common, especially with, again, some of the more challenging folks. Often tenants that have a behavioral problem don't just have one. They have a number of other behavioral problems that kind of accompany it. So if they're not paying, for instance, a lot of times they don't take very good care of the property that they're living in. They're very disrespectful of their neighbors, that type of thing. So finding diapers thrown out of windows is actually incredibly common. Finding a mattress thrown out in the street corner or the curb, again, very, very common. In properties that have a dumpster, it's great if they sometimes throw the trash adjacent to the dumpster, but sometimes that's hoping for a lot from some of these folks. We're going to take a look at an apartment where we ended our relationship finally with a difficult tenant. Can we stop calling them that? Can we just agree to call them a deadbeat customer? I mean, this is a bad, bad situation. This guy got evicted from the property, and unfortunately, having to go through an eviction process, well, that's just not something any property owner ever wants to do. Why? Well, because it's no fun to have to evict a customer and throw somebody out of your store, out of your business. But more importantly, it's incredibly expensive and time-consuming. This eviction case took us the better part of a year, and that means we had to pay a phenomenal amount of money for court costs, legal fees, moving and storage costs, not to mention all the money that was lost for the entire time that the customer was just basically squatting in the apartment. It's a loss all the way around. They have the damage on their record. They'll have a judgment against them for a very long time. And of course, as a business, it's going to take years to recover financially from that setback. So if it was just financial, that'd be one thing. But let's look inside at what the apartment looks like. You tell me if our loss is stopped with just him not paying a few months of rent. All right, come on, let's go check this place out. Now, like I said, when I'm at a property, if I'm there for a specific apartment or a specific reason and I see something else or observe something else going wrong, it's really, really good to document that stuff. So take a picture, make a note, and then make sure you put that stuff in your management software. Because even if you are here because of one bad customer on the second floor somewhere, you never know when you're going to have to be dealing with an issue with the third floor person that you happen to notice was smoking in their apartment in a non-smoking building, or was leaving a lot of trash outside by their kitchen door on the back porch, because later they'll complain about a pest issue. And these are the things that you should be documenting now and putting them in your management software whenever possible, and creating a file and a paper trail to cover you later on. So if you don't use management software, you should absolutely get some. There's a lot of options out there. We've been recommending Rent Ready to a lot of folks. They're actually here online on social media with a huge presence. They're a really great company to use for management software for smaller businesses, people starting up maybe with just a few units, maybe a couple of dozen units. We use some bigger, more expensive software because we work with a whole lot of properties, but Rent Ready might be great for somebody starting off. So just as you're kind of coming and going from these properties, other stuff you want to observe, you can always put into notes. Is going to be, lights intact, smoke detectors and stuff all intact. If you see anything damaged, it would usually jump out at you. So this is one where the eviction did go through. We're going to go inside and take a look at really an unfortunate situation. It'd be one thing if he just didn't pay for services. It'd be another thing if he didn't live like a complete dirtbag. This sucks for everybody, but the good thing is he's gone, and it's going to be an improvement to the property, and neighbors won't have to deal with somebody like this living next door. I do apologize if they've implemented smell-o-vision at this point, but you can smell the way this guy lived without even seeing it. Let me just assure you, it's tough. Heavily smoked in, clearly heavily smoked in apartment. It's a bit outdated. The guy had lived here for a little bit. We inherited this tenant as part of our acquisition of this property. That's going to happen. So if you're going out and you're buying a multifamily home, you're investing and you're buying a even an apartment building, you're going to be inheriting tenants. You have to then sort those things out or deal with what happened with the last guy, right? The last guy allowed somebody in that maybe wasn't very well qualified or could have been screened out by your new screening processes. But like I said, we teach you a lot about how to screen for bad tenants and avoid these kind of situations. But if you do this enough, you're not always going to be able to avoid it. So from time to time, a bad customer is going to get through. And that's what you're seeing here. So it's really important to know what to do with it if that does happen to you. Yeah, it's gross. All right, I know one of the things everybody should know, and that's a little tip from me to you right there. Never open the fridge in one of these kind of places. This kind of disgusting type of a place, you never want to open a fridge unless you're about to leave, or if you're going to leave and you can lock Matt in the apartment somehow. But for you guys, just because you're awesome and because I know you like this video and you subscribed, I'm going to do this for you, but I don't want to. Oh, okay. All right, here it is. Okay. Oh, it's not so bad. It's not so great. Yeah, definitely a lot of bugs. Oh, dead roaches, a lot of dead bugs. Dude, that is filthy. Like, I get that they emptied it, but that is really dirty though. Like, everything's caked. Oh, and there's live bugs running up and down. Okay, we're just gonna, yeah, we're closing it. We're closing it. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here before I get itchy. Wasn't that smelly? Lots of bugs. Thanks for sticking around. Let's go see what else we can get into for trouble around here. Now, the moving company came through. They packed up and took anything of value that wasn't infested or soiled. So I don't know how much they actually did remove, or the tenant themselves took maybe some of their own possessions. Now, as a property owner in this state, you pay for the moving company. You pay for that constable or sheriff to execute the move out, and then you pay for months of storage for anything that they do move. So, I mean, yeah, I love that. Look at this floor. This floor has a thick layer of grossness. It's clearly never been washed or cleaned. These were beautiful hardwood floors. This property is 100 years old. These floors have survived right up until this guy moved here. It's pretty clear he, lived here with a family. And I see, women's shoes over here. So unless this guy just liked to really have fun on the weekends, there was probably another adult and woman living here too. So two probably able-bodied adults that could have been paying a nickel towards their priorities, right? Keeping a shelter and a roof over their kid's head. And nothing had been paid for the better part of a year. And this is not our first go-around with non-payment. We had already closed out a case the year earlier because taxpayer money, you guys stepped up with rental assistance funds that got used. And this time around, he chose to not use that program to square up the majority of his balance. Instead, you're going to hate that. I can't believe this is even a thing. Tell me in the comments, am I wrong for thinking it? Instead of using rental assistance money to keep himself housed and square up, at least the most part, with his old landlord, his current landlord, he left us holding the bag, and they'll reward that activity by giving him up to $7,000 to lease up somewhere else in a brand new, untrashed apartment where he can basically live there for several months. They'll pay his first, last security, as well as a few months towards upcoming rent. So why would they pay his arrears when they could pay his future rent going forward? Of course, he has no problem leaving us holding the bag. I'm going to grab this. Okay. So you want me to be down there for... I can zip over there. All right, I'll head there in just a quick second. I'll be right down. Okay, all right, bye. Yeah, bye. Well, you can't make this stuff up, right? In the middle of shooting this, of course, we're always working, we're always running around, and I just got a call from maintenance, our maintenance supervisor, about one of our worst tenants, actually. So we're having a new stove delivered to that property. I don't know why. I only can assume she absolutely annihilated the last stove she had. She has torn this apartment up, and we've got to go there real quick to make sure that Home Depot or whoever it is that's delivering the stove can get access to do it. So, wow, we're going to see what we can get. Maybe we'll get some footage over there. I'm not really sure, but I've been in this apartment a couple of times previously. She is terrible as a person. The apartment has had doors ripped off the wall, the hinges completely punched through. I mean, filthy, like walking across her living room floor sounds like walking across a movie theater. You know, that sound your feet make across the floor. Oh, horrible in there. It's bad. And on top of that, she's a subsidized tenant, but she hasn't paid her share ever. She owes thousands of dollars between unpaid rent, maintenance fees, and things like that. We're gonna go have some fun. We're gonna zip in the car, zip down there and meet them, and maybe we'll have some footage that we can maybe work into this video about challenging tenants. So when it comes to eviction and situations like we just had at the property we just came from, one of the best things I would tell you is to remember that, at least in our state, Massachusetts, but many states, eviction is a process. It's called an eviction process. It's not an overnight thing, and you should probably start that process pretty early, shortly after there's been an issue with non-payment. So again, we're talking about non-payment of rent situations. What I generally tell people is, listen, nobody ever wants to do an eviction. So if the tenant doesn't pay on the 2nd of the month, does that mean you should file the eviction process right then? No. Feel it out, develop some comfort level with it. But after several days, maybe 7 days, 10 days, if that money hasn't come in, especially if you haven't heard from the tenant or anything, you can start the process. You can stop the process anytime you want. So if the tenant's telling you on the 7th, hey, listen, the check is in the mail, I've got your money, I'm gonna send it to you, you can be like, great, thank you, I appreciate it. Just so you know, you might be getting the first step of an eviction process, but if you just sent your check out, disregard it, and as soon as I get your payment, I'll of course cancel that process. You can just turn around and throw that notification away. So that's one of the best things I can tell you, because people will give you excuse after excuse, sometimes well-intentioned. Maybe life does hit somebody and they fall a few days behind, a week behind, whatever it might be. Other times they're expecting, because they've been used to a life where they can convince people to not hold them accountable for something. They can hold themselves to a whole different standard, because frankly, no one else really makes them perform. So when you call them, and in the meantime, while they're not paying, you're calling, you're texting, you're emailing, you're following up, and they're giving you this excuse, oh, I had this other sudden expense, I'm borrowing some money, I'll have it for you next Tuesday, all those kinds of things. You can say, that's amazing, that's great, thank you so much for taking this seriously. However, I'm still doing this process. So just in case, because I'm sure you're gonna do the right thing, but I've had other people not do the right thing, and I give them a couple weeks, then all of a sudden it's another excuse, and it's another week and a half, and pretty soon you're 2 months into it, and you've not even started the process. So start that eviction process. You can cancel at any time. And sometimes in our state, for instance, it takes months, several months to get into court from the day they first missed a payment. That means you could be 4 to 5 months behind when you're finally getting in front of a judge to plead your case. And who knows what they're going to have to say at that point. You're 5 months in a hole. Why would you want to allow it to be 7 or 8 months in a hole by waiting month after month right off the bat? So I hope that helps you with that tidbit. Remember, it's important to avoid bad tenants, but you're not always going to be able to. So it's really, really important to understand how to deal with them if you get stuck with one. All right, so we've got down here, we got the delivery company access to deliver the stove, and everything went smoothly. I didn't have anything really to show you about that. So I gotta tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised. Sometimes an easy task is actually an easy task, even with some of your worst customers. So listen, we showed you a lot of stuff today about dealing with tough, challenging situations in tenants, what can go wrong, and how important it is to avoid bad tenants in the first place. So hopefully you'll have an easier way of going forward on your path to financial freedom in your residential rental properties. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more of our tips. And honestly, if you haven't gotten started buying your first residential rental property, well, pick up our book, Foreclosures Unlocked. It'll show you how you can buy a property maybe at half price. Thanks, guys.